right, this is coming along pretty nicely, but let's go in for a closer look. Oh dear God. You ever find yourself overwhelmed or stressed out and use a quick, relaxing painting project to help your mental health? Well, if you haven't, you should really try it. Right now, I'm in the middle of a couple of really big projects, including last week's giant space marine, and my head's kind of spinning. So let's go through how I approach a relaxing painting project. Oh, I'm also going to use this video as an excuse to talk about how incredibly invaluable magnifiers are for me in miniature painting. And ironically, a video about relaxing, just knock something out quick painting is the perfect time to discuss them. So I'm going to sprinkle in how these things have changed my miniature painting forever as we work our way through. But for now, let's get cracking. So I'm going to be painting a WarCrow model from their new Winds from the North expansion, and picking the correct model for a relaxing paint project is the very first step. You see, I never pick something that's overly complex or something that I've been really excited to paint for a long time. That comes with added pressure, and that's not what this is about. It also really helps if I've built the model prior or it's a pretty quick assembly process. Luckily, these WarCrow models have next to no mold lines and they go together smoothly. The last thing I want to do is waste time on anything other than painting. It only increases the chance that I'll either not finish the project or I'll spend too much time building it and I won't even start painting at all. Next, I just want to get a bunch of color on the model. I'm never going to use black, gray, or white primer for a project like this. I want that immediate feeling of satisfaction of color getting on there. Now for this, you can use a dry brush, or you can slap on some diluted paints with a big fat brush, or you can use rattle cans, or you can use an airbrush like I'm doing. None of those is wrong. The important thing is that you're getting interesting colors on the model from the very beginning. I like to create a colorful shadow from below and then a punchy, vibrant light from above. I find that as long as I do these two things, it will all work itself out in the end. So I'm not stressing about what colors to use, what colors go well with other colors, or even putting on too many colors. It's important that for this to be a relaxing project that we don't stress ourselves over about color choice or overthinking any of the details. I'm here to reassure you that it's going to work out just fine and look great in the end without all that thinking. And now we bring out our paintbrush, but what do we paint first? What colors do we pick? Again, don't worry about that. I'm just going to ask myself a simple question. What excites me to paint on this model? Once you answer that question, you know where to begin. Whatever drew me to the model in the first place will get me moving. For this model, I really like the idea of painting some vibrant green orc skin. He's got a powerful pose and some skin that would be in direct light, while other areas are more in shadow. So let's just get going there. And this seems like a good time to start discussing magnifiers. At their core, they're pretty straightforward. All they do is make your little tiny thing you're painting look bigger through the lenses. So you're just able to see all the fine shapes and details of your work, allowing you to be much more precise in your painting. Now, when I first started using magnifiers, I just put them on for fine detail work and to finish up all of those important touches at the end of a project. But then for competition pieces, I found myself using them all the time. And over time, I realized that they're useful at all stages of a paint project. And not just because you paint the details better, but because every part of the painting process goes quicker and I make far fewer mistakes when I can see everything magnified. And when I started using these things for every project, not just complex ones, that's when things really started to click. For this guy today, I'm keeping some areas completely unpainted under that prime step, or I'm building up in just one highlight. But by being a bit more precise in each of these steps, I'm working through every step of the project much more efficiently and fastly. And to me, that really all goes hand in hand for what makes a quick, relaxing, and enjoyable painting session. I feel like I'm not stuck on any one area for too long. The sooner I'm able to complete a section without getting frustrated, the more accomplished I'll feel. And these small feelings of accomplishment throughout your painting project are an amazing thing. They release endorphins in your brain and you get a little bit of that euphoric feeling, which is kind of the whole point of painting for relaxation. I don't need this paint job to be perfect. I don't need it to be the best thing I've ever done. But as long as I follow that yellow zenithal to push the highlights brighter in those areas, I'll quickly get to a point where I'm excited to see this model to completion. Now, if you're anything like me, once you've completed the one or two parts of a model that excites you the most, you then quickly become overwhelmed by all the amount of tiny details still unpainted on your model. Now, the last thing you want to do here is look at all of those details and think about them all at once. That's just going to overwhelm you. Luckily, I have built up some momentum at this point because I've painted some of the more fun things, so whatever stands out to me next is whatever I'm going to paint. But what color should I paint this detail, John? Kind of doesn't matter, quite frankly, and every time I do a project like this, I like to work within a single paint range for the whole project. It just keeps things streamlined and easier for me. Today I'm using the War Paints Fanatic range by Army Painter, but any paint range you have on your shelf will do great. And you'll notice that I'm not base coating the entirety of any of these details. I'm just hitting every section that our yellow zenithal has hit. All the shadows across the model being similar color will tie the piece together at the end while speeding up our painting time exponentially because we aren't even painting a decent percentage of the model. Now, magnifiers help me in steps like these because it makes it extremely clear which sections I need to paint and which ones I'm going to leave unpainted. Each time my brush hits the model, I treat it as if it's the only layer of paint this surface will ever receive. And the magnifiers take away so much of my decision making. I don't lose momentum on finishing up detailed areas. Today's video is brought to us by Corvus Belli in their fantasy war game you do need to check out, WarCrow. Now, there's a couple of things that particularly excite me about this game, so let's unpack them. First off, Corvus Belli is well known for its highly rated, tightly rule set driven and action-packed sci-fi game, Infinity. So we already know that they can make a great game, and WarCrow isn't just the same game with a fantasy skin on it. It introduces some really unique mechanics like their magic and switch systems, as well as taking the best parts of skirmish games and large-scale unit-based games to make this new hybrid. Second are the minis. These things are an incredibly firm CO-cast plastic, meaning they have incredible detail, almost no lines, so cleanup is super fast, and they're incredibly durable because they have a slight give to the material without ever losing their shape. And last, but certainly not least, is this game is actually two games in one. Not only do you have WarCrow, the tactical miniatures game, but they also have WarCrow Adventures, a cooperative dungeon crawler that I'll definitely be trying out with my weekly miniatures board game group. So to me, WarCrow checks all the boxes that make it worth investigating. If you're interested at all, check out the links down below to WarCrow, as well as their new expansion, Winds from the North, where the miniature we're painting today comes from, and don't forget, WarCrow Adventures. Now, one trick I like to do here is to use that same yellow paint that I used as our zenithal as a mix-in color on those areas that I want to build up a highlight or two. This takes away all that time and energy worrying about what color to highlight with, and it helps keep that warmth consistent over the entire model. Oh, and if you ever do feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of details you have to paint, just grab a speed paint or a contrast paint and slap that over some of the details that you don't want to paint. If you feel like it, you can go back in with a quick highlight later if you want to, but it's better to just get some color on everything here. Those tiny details aren't going to make or break your paint job or the fun you're having anyway. Now, I've found over time that one of the best keys that I have for a relaxing, de-stressing paint job is my frame of mind. I like to mostly have my brain turned off. I'm not thinking about worries in my life or worries about painting. I'm usually listening to a podcast or watching YouTube videos or watching a movie. There is one exception though. I am keeping my antennas up for one thing in particular, and that is any part of the paint job that starts to be more fun or more interesting than I had expected. For example, on this guy, I really found myself getting into all the scales on his skirt, trying to find a way to make those feel more like a really reflective metal. When you identify a section like this that's more interesting to you or just simply more fun, make sure you slow down and allow yourself to spend some more time here. This is where you'll learn and grow as a painter while you're actually enjoying yourself. Maybe you push the area brighter than you're comfortable with. Maybe you make sure that yellow highlight color is still there to sell that warmth. Make sure you pay attention to what areas should be kept dark with only a single dark blue-gray base coat. These are the kinds of things that I've turned my brain back on for just a moment while I work through this interesting section. But it's not actually about how well this section turns out. It's about being present for a moment of learning, and that is so enjoyable. You will appreciate it so much more. And then you can just turn your brain back off once you finish this interesting section and you move forward on finishing the model. I've been using the same cheap Amazon $20 magnifiers for a number of years now. I'll put a link down in the description below if you wanted to see what I use. But I recently wondered maybe there's something fancier, higher end out there that might work even better for our hobby, which is what led me to these magnifiers by a company called Craft Optics. And these things are expensive. I mean, like over $500 expensive. And through the process of ordering, you work with an optometrist for all sorts of details like your pupil distance, any prescriptions you might wear for glasses, and it's pretty thorough. And there's even an optional powerful light that you can have added onto the glasses. And even with the light and these things having this big fancy black magnifiers, these things are incredibly lightweight. And the light attached was actually shockingly helpful for painting. I could see way more details in the undersides of models than ever before. The only downside to that light being that it really blows out the model when filming on camera, so I can't really use it for videos. And I think I need to do a better job of trying to clarify my point here. The point is not that I think we all need really expensive magnifiers to paint models. The point I'm trying to make is I wouldn't spend a lot of money on most fancy versions of tools and gear in our hobby, but because I've found even a cheap magnifier that has been such a massive help for my miniature painting, that I'm willing to see what a high-end version of these would do to my miniature painting. I'll put a link down below to Craft Optics magnifiers as well, but note that I'm not affiliated with them in any regard. I don't get paid at all if you buy them or not, and I don't think most people should spend that amount of money on a miniature painting tool. But it's your money, spend it however you want. The only thing I ask is if you haven't tried magnifiers before, get a cheap version and see what they do for you. Now at this point in the project, you have gotten paint over every surface of the model, and you should feel good. You should feel proud because you've turned a gray piece of plastic into something to be proud of. And this is the part of the project where I need to ask myself a question. Do I have the energy, the excitement, the time to push a few more details farther? Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, and neither answer is incorrect. For this guy, I decided just to do one more thing. I added a little bit of warmth with a thinned down red to his skin to bring it a little bit more to life. And there you go. In just a couple of hours or less, you have completed your relaxing painting project. And tell you what, every time I go through this process, I feel better at the end. Not just about painting, but in general. And it gives me energy to get back to the painting desk more often, whether it's to do more relaxing paint jobs like this or to tackle bigger projects. Either way, it's a great use of time. You know what? I know that this was kind of a weird combination of relaxing miniature painting and why I like magnifiers in painting, but that's what I did. But I do truly feel that there is a connection between these two things. In projects like this, I get much less frustrated and spend less time getting the model where I want it to be, and on all my painting, even Golden Demon painting, it raises the bar of what I feel I'm capable of achieving. So for me, anywhere from relaxing all the way to competition pieces, I just don't paint without these anymore. And it's not because my eyes are going bad because I'm old. I just want to see the thing bigger, because these frickin' things are tiny. And thanks for hanging out with me for this more of a relaxing, easygoing video. You know, oftentimes between painting and editing and script writing, the entire process of making video can be pretty stressful, but this one kind of wasn't. In fact, it's rejuvenated me to start on my next big project, my Golden Demon piece for Adepticon 2025. So I think maybe next video is a good time for you and I to start on that project together. Hope to see you then, and I hope you had a good time here today as well. If you did and you want to support my channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. That goes a long ways, as do the like button. And if you wanted to help a little bit more, you could check out my Patreon link down below. The patrons are what help me so much in making sure I can do this full time, and I like to give back. There's some fun rewards you get for joining us over on the Ninja on Patreon. So I'm going to see you back here again real soon, and make sure sometime between now and then you find time in your day to slay the gray.